In this video, we're going to explore the networking capabilities of the CX350 camcorder in two different ways. We're going to look at remote control operation through something like an Apple iPad or an Android tablet. And the other way is integrating into a live network environment through NDI-HX. So let's talk about remote control. The camera has the ability to be remote controlled through a wired controller, or it can be controlled wirelessly through the CX350 app that you can download freely from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. In order to use the app on a tablet or even on a phone with the camera, you have to connect the camera to a network. Two ways you can do that. You can use the Ethernet port, or a way that I find easier, even though it does involve an extra cost option, is to come into the USB host port here and plug in one of these. This is a Panasonic AJ-WM50 wireless network adapter. When this is plugged in, you can connect the camera to an existing wireless network, or the camera can actually create its own wireless network that the app can then directly connect to. So let's look at the setup for using the wireless controller first. Plug in your WM50, and then let's go into the network menu and configure the options. If this is your first time trying to set up, or if you've been trying to set up and you haven't been successful, you haven't figured out the right magic combination of settings, then I recommend heartily that we go into the network menu and choose the utility menu and then network initialize. That puts us at a good initial state. Then we can make the changes that I'll demonstrate here. First thing I'm going to do is select device cell, and for the wireless network we choose WLAN. Then we go into the network FUNC. We have to make sure that that says off. Even though we're going to be creating a network, it's a different kind of network. It's not streaming or NDI-HX, so we have to choose off. We look at IP remote. We want to make sure that says enable. And then we have to go in and create a user account. A user account is so that the tablet or the phone that's running the app can connect to the camera. Even though they're both on the network, they still have to be able to log into each other, or else anybody could log into your network and control your camera. So you have to have a user account. I go with the very simplest I can. I'm going to put in the letter A for the account name. And then for the password, we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Obviously, these can be whatever you want them to be. There's got to be a minimum of 8 characters on the password. And as far as the username goes, it's case sensitive. So definitely remember what's uppercase and lowercase, or you won't be able to log in. All right, once you've established the user account, then we're going to go down to the WLAN property, and we're going to choose the type of network that we're connecting to. You can connect to an existing wireless network through a router or something, but we're not going to bother with that. We're going to go for a direct connection directly to the camera, so we choose direct. The SSID that the camera will create, the network that you're going to connect to on the iPad or on the Android, is named AGCX350. Now you can change that. If you have multiple cameras, you're probably going to want to change it to AGCX350A or B or C or whatever. But if you're just using one camera, the stock name is fine. So once you've established AGCX350, that network will be created. And then we want to go to the last thing we need to do to set up the camera. Go down to the IPv4 settings and look at the DHCP command, and let's set that to server. When you establish that, then the camera will be creating and broadcasting a network, and it will automatically configure anything that tries to attach to that network. So this is exactly what we need. Now all we have to do, two things. First, exit out of the menus on the camera. You have to exit fully out of the menus all the way back to the live camera screen, or else the app won't be able to connect. So when you exit out, you'll see that there's a network icon up on the LCD. It'll be in gray because nothing's connected to it yet. Next, we've got to connect the tablet to the camera. So go into your Wi-Fi settings and look for a network called AGCX350. Choose that, and when it asks you for the password, the default password is 0123456789, 0123456789, ABCDEF. Once you enter that in, you'll be able to connect to the network. Your tablet will show that it's connected to that network, and on your camera you'll see that the broadcasting icon up here in the upper right has now turned white. You're successfully connected. So now all we have to do is run the app, need the CX350, and when the connection box comes up, we have to enter these 3 fields. First is the IP address of the camera. You may remember we saw that displayed in the IPv4 settings menu right under DHCP. Enter that IP address here in this first field. Next, we have to enter the account name. Remember, we made an account of A with a password of 123456788. So put in that account name and password, click connect, and you have control, remote control of the camera. You can change the f-stop, you can change the master pedestal, the color temperature, the shutter speed, the gain, the black pedestal. There's all sorts of things. You can even trigger the user buttons. So whatever you've configured on the first 9 user buttons, you can remotely control here. You can control the focus, you can control the iris. Really comprehensive what you can do from the app. Another way we can use the camera for networking, which is entirely different, is through NDI-HX. Now, NDI-HX is a protocol that was developed by NewTek, and it's used in their TriCaster products, or Panasonic uses NDI-HX protocol in their HLC100, and their pan-tilt zoom cameras can be enabled for NDI-HX, and the CX350 can be enabled for NDI-HX. What is it? It's a networking protocol that lets you, especially in a live camera environment, connect a number of cameras to a network with a switcher and be able to remotely view, or even in some cases control, that camera remotely just through an Ethernet cable. So instead of having to run an SDI cable for a monitor and then an HDMI cable for a monitor, and then if you need to run 2 monitors, you have to run 1 to each, and all these chaining and complications in wiring, NDI-HX lets you integrate the camera just through an Ethernet cable. And then anyone who's on the network can see the output of that camera. So you don't have to have a separate monitor for everybody and then run separate cables to every monitor. It's just, it becomes basically like a web page, like an internet web page where anyone in the world can look at that web page and see what's on there. The camera becomes like a video page, and anybody on the network can look at the camera and see the output that it's delivering and use that output in a switcher for live production. When you want to use NDI-HX, first thing you have to do is go to the NewTek website and download the NDI tools. You want to make sure it's version 3.8 or later. Those are the versions of the software that integrated NDI-HX. NDI has existed prior to that, but we need the HX version. So download and install that, and you'll find there's on the Macintosh it's called Video Monitor, and on the Windows system it's called the Studio Monitor. And that is an NDI-enabled monitoring program. So once you have that up and running, your network is now able to look and see NDI-enabled devices, and that monitor software can link to the camera and view its output, basically streaming video coming directly to the desktop that way. So now we have to configure the camera to integrate that into that network. First thing to do, we have to plug the Ethernet cable either directly into a computer or into a router that is serving that computer and that network. You can either do direct connect or through a router. Now, just for clarification, you cannot use Wi-Fi with this. You can't use the WM50 and connect wirelessly. In order to use NDI-HX, it requires a hardwired Ethernet connection. So once you've established that connection, let's go into the camera and configure it to use NDI. Again, we're going into the network menu. And when we go to the first option, device cell, we want that to be set to LAN. Next, we go to the network FUNC menu and choose NDI-HX. Camera will restart it. And the final step, we go to the LAN property menu, the IPv4 setting, and I use DHCP set to client when connecting directly to a network. If you're connecting directly to a computer, like a peer-to-peer network, you might have better luck with server, but try client first and see if it just automatically connects. With that, the menus are configured, so exit out of all the menus. Again, if you don't exit out of the menus, the camera can't connect. Take your Ethernet cable, plug it into the camera, plug it into the network, and you should see the connection icon turn white. When it's white, it'll be connected. So now we go to the computer and we have to run our NDI tools. We have to give the camera an NDI-enabled network to connect to. So you run the Studio Monitor software on Windows, or on a Macintosh, it's a Video Monitor software. and that will create an NDI-enabled network. Now, it should see your camera there. When you go up to the File menu on the Macintosh, or you go up to this menu here on the Windows system, you should see an AG CX350 as an available video source. If you don't see it, give it a minute. Sometimes the network's slow to connect, or exit out of the NDI software and then run it again. But sooner or later, it'll come up and you'll see that it's an option. Now, if your camera's never been used in an NDI environment before and you haven't gotten a license for it, then this will give you an option. It'll say, you know, hey, this camera needs to be registered. Go here to buy a license. Go to the NewTek website and buy a license for a Panasonic CX350 camcorder. It'll give you a code that you can then enter into the Studio Monitor software, and then your camera is registered and it'll be an NDI serving device and you can see the video on the screen. Cameras in UHD, streaming is not going to work, or NDI HX Connect is not going to work. So go into the system menu, choose rec format, and choose one of the 1080 options. I generally like to choose 1080 60p, so it gives me the most options, or 1080 24p if I want my streaming video to have the film look to it. When that's configured, let's go back into the network menu and we're going to show you the options you can choose and a little guidance as to why. These options will change based on what format that you set. If you set a 24p recording, then you'll see different choices here. Because I chose 60p, then I'm seeing 60p choices, either 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720. And the number next to there is the number of megabits that the data stream is going to take up. So in 1080 60p, we got data streams from 6 megabits up to 24 megabits. Bigger numbers are higher quality, but they also take up more space on your network. So if you have an entire network capability, maybe you're using a 10 megabit Ethernet connection, old school 10 megabit, you can't run 24 megabit video over that. You could only run maybe the 6 megabit at best. You can't really run 10 because then there's nowhere else for the network to go. You'd be saturating the network. So choose a format that's appropriate for the network you have. If you have a gigabit network, you can use anything. If you have a wireless network that you're transmitting over, you're connecting directly to the router and then the wireless network is going, what's your wireless service? If your wireless service is only 20 megabit, just choose a streaming format that's appropriate for the network that you've got. So that's configured. You can enjoy video remotely. You can have it on a computer directly connected. You can have it all throughout your house or all throughout your office. It's a great way to be able to add a number of cameras and all of them connected just through a low-cost Ethernet cable. Hope this has been helpful and you understand some of the streaming capability that the camera has and the networking capability that it offers. If you want to learn more about what it can do, stay tuned to this channel. There are other videos, and especially there's going to be a video on direct streaming live to YouTube or even to Facebook Live or any other live streaming service. So check out the other videos, and thanks for watching.
Panasonic,